The human legacy. The great hall still shook with Aaron's words. The council sat frozen, their faces torn between rage, fear, and disbelief. For generations, they had ruled with cold laws. For generations, they mocked humans as weak and unworthy. But now, standing before them was something they could not ignore, truth wrapped in flesh and blood. A child was coming. A child born of two worlds. The council leader slammed his staff again. His voice trembled with fury. This cannot be allowed. A union like this threatens our very bloodline. It will destroy our future. Kalen stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried fire. No, it will save your future. You speak of purity, but purity leads to extinction. You speak of strength, but strength without heart is only tyranny. Humanity knows pain. We know survival. We know love. And now your people will learn too. Through us. Through our child. Gasps echoed again. Some council members hissed. But among the younger ones, something had changed. Their eyes no longer shone with blind loyalty. Instead, they flickered with hope. Aaron's mother, a respected elder warrior, finally rose from her seat. Her scarred face was unreadable. For years she had stood by the council, bound by duty. But now, her daughter's trembling hand resting on her stomach forced her heart to decide. She raised her voice, sharp and steady. You call this shame. I call this courage. For centuries we mocked humans. We hunted them. We called them weak. Yet this human has stood where few of our own dared stand. Before your council unbroken. If weakness births such strength, then perhaps we were blind all along. A murmur spread through the crowd. Warriors shifted uneasily. The old order was cracking. The council leader's eyes blazed. You betray us? The elder shook her head. No, I betray fear. I choose truth. Her words lit a fire. Several warriors rose, their weapons clashing against the floor as a sign of respect. Not for the council, but for Kalen and Aaron. The chamber shook with divided voices. Half stood with the council, half with the forbidden bond. The council leader raised his staff to strike judgment. Then war it shall be. We will burn this infection before it spreads. But before his staff could fall, the heavy doors of the chamber groaned. A deep rumble rolled through the hall. The doors burst open, and there in gleaming silver armor stood men and women of Earth. Human soldiers. Human leaders. They carried banners marked with Earth's emblem, a forgotten symbol that still burned with pride. The hall erupted in shock. Kalen's chest swelled. His voice rang clear. You call us weak, yet humanity has risen again. We do not kneel. We do not break. We stand for our kind and now for hers too. The council froze. They had not expected this. They thought Earth was still scattered, broken, alone. But now, humanity stood strong enough to march into their capital unafraid. One soldier stepped forward, his voice thunderous. The age of mockery ends. The age of unity begins. If you strike them, you strike us all, and humanity does not forgive. The chamber was silent, save for the pounding of hearts. Aaron stepped closer to Kalen, her hand tightening around his. She raised her chin proudly, no longer trembling. You feared our bond, but it is not a curse. It is the bridge to a future where no child, human or alien, must bow to old lies. This is our legacy. The council leader's staff lowered, his strength failing. His voice broke, not with rage, but with despair. Then the age of the council is over. The hall erupted, not in war, but in thunderous cries. The young roared for change. The old wept, powerless to stop it. The ancient order had fallen. Kalen looked at Aaron, his heart burning with pride. Humanity had been mocked, hunted, forgotten. But now, with her by his side, their child in her womb and Earth standing tall once more. Humanity's legacy had returned. It was not just survival. It was destiny. The conflict, the grand throne hall of the Zyran Empire glittered with crystal pillars and rivers of liquid light flowing across the floor. Alien nobles filled the chamber, their voices sharp and restless. Rumors had spread faster than fire. The princess had been wounded in battle and healed by a human. Whispers twisted into accusations. Pride turned into suspicion. On the throne, Emperor Zorath, Kylira's father, sat tall with his crown of living metal. His voice silenced the chamber. Bring forth the human. The guards obeyed, their boots echoing as they dragged Captain Daniel Reeve into the hall. His wrists were bound, but his posture remained straight. His calm eyes swept over the sea of alien faces staring at him with hatred and disgust. The Emperor leaned forward. "They say you saved my daughter's life." Daniel's voice was steady. "I did what anyone should do." Laughter broke from the nobles. One spat, "Arrogant human. He dares speak as though his blood is equal to ours." Another hissed, "His touch taints the royal line." Kalira sat beside her father, her golden eyes fixed on Daniel. Inside, her chest burned with conflict. She wanted to speak, to tell the truth, but fear strangled her voice. Her father turned to her. "Is it true, Kalira? Did this creature's blood touch yours?" The hall fell silent. Every noble leaned forward, hungry for her answer. Kalira's heart thundered. She remembered Daniel's hands pressing against her wound, the warmth of his serum, the impossible bond it created. The truth was alive inside her, but if she spoke it here, she would condemn him to death. Perhaps herself as well. She lifted her chin, masking her turmoil. "He aided me in battle," she said carefully. "Nothing more." The Emperor's eyes narrowed, not fully convinced. Still, he turned his gaze back to Daniel. "You overstepped your place, human. You interfered with the blood of royals. Such audacity cannot go unpunished." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he did not bow his head. "If saving her life was a crime, then I accept it." Gasps rippled through the nobles. His defiance was a slap across their pride. The Emperor's hand rose. "Enough. Guards, prepare his execution." Kalira's breath caught. 1,000 voices inside her screamed to stay silent, to let it happen, to protect her bloodline's honor. But another voice, stronger, fiercer, roared in her heart. "He saved you. Without him you would be dead." Her nails dug into her palms. She could not sit still. "Father, wait," she said suddenly. Her voice rang across the chamber, drawing every eye. The Emperor turned, surprised by her interruption. "You defend him?" Kalira forced her tone to remain cold, though her heart raced. Killing him would waste a useful warrior. He fought with courage when even our own lines broke. His kind may be weak, but this one has proven different. Murmurs filled the hall. Some nobles scoffed, others frowned, but none could deny her words. They had seen the battle themselves. The Emperor studied her face. "You speak strongly for one of his kind." Kalira held his gaze, her pride unbroken. "I speak for victory, Father. If humans are to serve us, let us use the strongest among them. Why discard a tool that still has value?" Daniel's eyes flickered toward her. For a brief moment, their gazes locked. He saw the truth hidden beneath her mask. She wasn't saving him as a tool. She was saving him because she could not let him die. The Emperor considered, then lowered his hand. "Very well, the human lives, for now. But he is to remain under watch. One wrong step and he dies." The guards shoved Daniel back, their grips rough. But he still stood tall, his calm eyes never leaving the princess. The chamber emptied slowly, the nobles whispering their doubts and suspicions. Only Kalira remained seated, her chest heavy with what she had done. That night, in the shadows of her private quarters, she pressed her hand to her abdomen where his blood still pulsed within her. She could not deny the truth Varun had told her. The bond was real, and if it ever came to light, the Empire would turn on her. Her father's warning echoed in her mind. One wrong step, and he dies, Kalira whispered into the empty room, her voice trembling for the first time in her life. Then I will not let him fall, not by their hands. And with those words, the war inside her heart deepened. The revelation, the great hall of the alien capital, was silent. Warriors, nobles, and council members sat in rows, their eyes burning with judgment. At the center, Kalen and Arin stood like prisoners before a trial. The council leader, an ancient alien with silver scales, raised his staff. "Human," his voice echoed, "you broke our laws. You dared to touch what is forbidden. You dared to claim what is not yours." Kalen did not bow. His fists were clenched, his jaw tight, but his voice was steady. "I never claimed her. She chose me. You speak of laws, but what of hearts? What of choice?" Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens hissed, others whispered in shock. No one had ever spoken against the council this way. Arin trembled beside him, her eyes locked on the floor. She felt the weight of thousands of stares. Shame burned in her chest, but so did something else. Fear for Kalen. She whispered, "They will destroy you. Stop talking." But Kalen shook his head. "No, the truth has been hidden too long. They must hear it." The council leader narrowed his glowing eyes. "What truth? Speak, human, or remain silent and face death." Kalen took a deep breath. His voice carried through the chamber. "The bond between us is not sickness. It is not shame, it is life. You fear it because it proves something you do not want to accept. That humans and your kind are not enemies, not strangers. We are connected." A ripple spread through the hall. Some warriors looked away, uneasy. Some younger aliens leaned forward, curiosity breaking through their fear. Arin finally lifted her head. Tears shimmered in her eyes as Kalen continued. "Your people mock humans. They call us weak, small, unworthy. But if that is true, then why does your strongest warrior, your chosen heir, stand with me? Why does she carry proof that our bond is real?" The words fell like thunder. Arin gasped, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. The hall erupted in shouts. Some cried blasphemy. Others rose from their seats in outrage. A few sat frozen, their eyes wide, their faces pale with shock. The council leader slammed his staff on the ground. "Silence!" The noise stopped, but tension still hung like fire in the air. His eyes pierced Arin. "Is this true?" Arin's lips trembled. She looked at Kalen, then at the crowd. Her whole life she had been taught to obey, to never question, to hide anything that went against their sacred laws. But hiding now would mean losing him. Hiding would mean betraying herself. She raised her chin, her voice trembling but strong enough to reach every corner of the hall. "Yes, it is true." The hall froze again. "I mocked him," she continued, her voice growing steadier. "I insulted him. I told him his kind was beneath us, but he stood his ground. He faced my strength without fear, and in time I saw what no one else dared to see, that he was not weak. He was not unworthy. He was human, and that meant he could love in ways our kind had forgotten." A shiver ran through the chamber. The younger aliens exchanged glances, their minds breaking free of years of lies. Arin placed her hand on her stomach again. Her voice softened, but it carried like a blade. "And now I carry proof of that love. A child. Half human, half of my kind. A life that should not exist, yet it does. What will you do, Council? Kill it, kill me, kill him? Or will you face the truth that the future you fear is already here?" Her words cut through centuries of prejudice. For the first time, even the mighty council leader faltered. His grip on the staff trembled. The silence that followed was unbearable. The entire hall waited, every breath sharp, every heartbeat loud. Kalen reached for Arin's hand and she let him hold it. Together they stood against the storm. Finally, the council leader spoke. His voice was low, dangerous but uncertain. "This changes everything." And with that, the trial was no longer simple. It was war between old laws and new life. The hidden bond of the battlefield was silent now. Smoke curled into the sky, and the stench of blood lingered in the air. The Zyran banners stood, but they hung heavy, scarred from the day's fight. Soldiers gathered the wounded, their voices hushed with exhaustion. Among them, Princess Kalyra walked unsteady. She had fought bravely, but a deep gash across her side burned with pain. Her golden eyes flickered, her steps weak. Her guards moved to assist her, but before they could reach, her knees buckled. She collapsed to the ground with a sharp cry. "Princess!" The Zyran soldiers rushed to her side. They tried to stop the bleeding with their glowing medkits, but the wound was too deep. Their alien medicine could slow it, not heal it. Her vision blurred. She saw shapes moving above her, shadows of her loyal warriors. But none could take the pain away, and then another shadow fell over her. It was Captain Daniel Reeve. He pushed past the Zyran guards, his uniform stained with battle, his eyes sharp with focus. "Move," he ordered firmly. The guards growled in protest. "Do not touch her, human," one snapped. "Your hands are unworthy of royal blood." But Kalyra's lips parted weakly. Her pride screamed to push him away, yet her body trembled, desperate for relief. She met his eyes. For some reason, she didn't tell him no. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her. He tore off a strip of his uniform, pressing it against her wound to stop the bleeding. "It won't hold," he muttered. His gaze moved to her face. "You're losing too much blood." Her breathing was shallow. "Then Let me die, she whispered bitterly. Better than owing my life to a human. Daniel's jaw tightened. He ignored her words. From a pouch on his belt, he pulled out a small injector, a human combat tool filled with a stim serum designed for emergencies. It wasn't made for her species, but he had no choice. This is going to hurt, he warned. Before she could protest, he pressed the injector against her skin and pushed. The serum mixed with her blood instantly. Kaylira gasped. A burning sensation spread through her veins, unlike anything she had ever felt. Her body arched, her golden eyes glowing brighter for a moment. Her wound began to close, slowly but surely. The Zyran guards stepped back in shock. Impossible, one muttered. Kaylira's breathing steadied, the color returning to her face. But her body still trembled. She stared at Daniel, her pride clashing with the truth. You used your blood, she whispered. Daniel nodded once. It was the only way. Her eyes widened. That should not be possible. Our kinds, we are not compatible. But the proof was in her body. His human serum had fused with her alien cells, repairing what their advanced medicine could not. She sat up slowly, clutching her side. Her voice was unsteady. Why? Why would you risk yourself for me? Daniel looked at her, his face calm but unreadable. Because it was the right thing to do. His answer was simple, almost too simple. Yet it unsettled her more than any insult. She had expected arrogance or perhaps a demand for repayment, but instead he gave freely, asking nothing. Her chest tightened. She hated the feeling. You think this changes anything? She said coldly, trying to cover her confusion. Do not mistake this accident for a bond. Daniel stood, his shadow falling across her. His voice was quiet but firm. Bond or not, princess, you're alive. That's enough for me. He walked away, leaving her surrounded by her guards. But Kaylira did not move. She pressed her hand to her side, feeling the strange warmth where his serum still lingered. Her body pulsed differently now, as if something inside her had been awakened. She whispered to herself, almost afraid of the words. This should not be possible. Her guards waited for orders, but she said nothing more. That night, when the campfires burned low, Kaylira sat alone in her tent. She stared at her reflection in a silver mirror, her fingers tracing the wound that should have scarred her but now healed almost completely. Her thoughts spun. His blood, his touch, his words, against her will, a single truth echoed in her mind. The human had saved her when no one else could, and deep inside, a dangerous seed had been planted, one that would change her life forever. The forbidden truth. The halls of the Zyran royal ship were quiet, lined with glowing crystal lights that pulsed like living veins. Princess Kaylira walked quickly, her silver robe flowing behind her. She held her side where the wound had been, but it was no longer a wound. Only smooth, unmarked skin remained. Her mind refused to rest. Every heartbeat felt wrong. Every breath carried a strange warmth. And each time she closed her eyes, she saw the human's face, the way he had saved her. The way his blood had changed her. She pushed the thought away and entered the medical chamber. Inside, the chief Zyran biologist, an old scholar named Varun, looked up in surprise. His 4 eyes blinked nervously. Your Highness, you should be resting. I need answers, Kaylira said sharply. Run a full scan. Varun hesitated. A scan for what, princess? Her golden eyes narrowed. For whatever is happening inside me. Do it. Now. The scientist bowed quickly and guided her onto the crystalline table. Strange machines hummed to life, beams of blue light passing over her body. Symbols flickered across the walls as alien computers analyzed her cells. Kaylira lay still, but her heart raced. She told herself she was imagining things, that this was nothing, that no human could ever affect her kind. Minutes passed. Then Varun froze. His wrinkled face turned pale as his hands shook over the controls. Kaylira sat up immediately. What is it? Speak. Varun swallowed hard. Princess, your cells. They showed traces of foreign DNA. Her chest tightened. Explain. The serum that human used on you, Varun said, his voice unsteady. It fused with your blood. Not rejected, not destroyed. It integrated. Your body accepted it as if it belonged. Kaylira's golden eyes blazed. That is impossible. Our species cannot mix with theirs. I thought the same, the old scientist whispered. But your scans, they tell another story. He hesitated, then added softly, Your Highness, your body is not only accepting the human's DNA, it is adapting to it, merging. Silence filled the chamber. Kalira's heart thundered in her chest. She felt the warmth inside her blood pulse stronger, as if proving his words true. She slid off the table, standing tall though her legs trembled. Erase these records, she ordered coldly. No one must see them. Varun hesitated. But Princess, her voice turned sharp as steel. Erase them now. The old scientist bowed, trembling, and obeyed. The screens went dark. The data was gone. Kalira turned away, her robe swirling as she left the chamber. But her thoughts refused to silence. Every word of the human echoed back. Careful, Princess. Life has a way of proving us wrong. She clenched her fists. How could this be happening? How could a human, a species she mocked, leave such a mark on her body, her very blood? As she walked the corridors, she passed groups of soldiers who bowed to her. She lifted her chin higher, masking the storm inside her. No one could ever know. Not her father, the Emperor. Not the Council. Not her people. To them, humans were weak. To them, humans were nothing, and yet, deep in her veins, a different truth pulsed. That night, alone in her quarters, Kalira stared into the mirror again. She touched her side where his serum had healed her. She whispered the words she had once spoken with such disgust, the idea of breeding with a human. Her voice faltered. She remembered the way he had stood tall before her insults, the way he had fought without fear, the way he had risked his life for hers. Disgusting, she finished weakly, but the word no longer carried strength. Instead, a different thought clawed its way into her mind. Terrifying, impossible, forbidden. What if the human is not weak at all? She closed her eyes, but the warmth in her blood refused to fade. It was as if the bond he had created was alive, whispering from inside her, "You belong to him now." And for the first time in her life, Princess Kalira, heir of the mighty Ziran Empire, felt afraid, not of her enemies, not of death, but of the truth growing inside her. The insult, the great council chamber of the Ziran Empire glowed with silver light. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in a circle, their jeweled robes shining like stars. At the center of the chamber stood one human soldier. His name was Captain Daniel Reeve, one of the few humans invited to this assembly. Most of the aliens looked at him with cold eyes. Some whispered, some even laughed. To them, humans were a young race, barely known in the galaxy, weak, fragile, unimportant. But the human stood tall. His uniform was simple compared to their rich garments, but his eyes were steady. He did not lower his head. On the high seat, the alien princess leaned forward. Princess Kalira of the Ziran royal line was tall, graceful, with silver blue skin and sharp golden eyes. Her beauty was dangerous, like a blade wrapped in silk. She had a voice that could charm crowds or cut them apart. She looked at Daniel with a mocking smile. "Tell me, human," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Do you truly believe your kind deserves a place in this council? Do you believe your fragile bodies can stand beside warriors of my bloodline?" Laughter rippled through the room. Daniel did not answer at once. He looked around at the faces staring at him, faces filled with arrogance, superiority, and doubt. Then he looked back at the princess. "I believe," Daniel said slowly, "that worth is proven in deeds, not in words." The council grew quiet for a moment, but the princess tilted her head and laughed softly. "Deeds," she repeated. "What deed can a human perform that my kind cannot? What world have you conquered? What empire have you built? Even your lifespan is short. 100 of your years is but a breath for us." The council roared in laughter again. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he did not show anger. Instead, he spoke in a calm, steady tone. "Sometimes," he said, "a short life burns brighter than a long one." The princess narrowed her golden eyes, her smile fading for just a second. She studied him, almost curious. But then her pride returned and she leaned back on her throne. She waved her hand as if brushing away a foolish thought. "And what of breeding?" she said, her voice sharp now. I have heard humans claim they are compatible with other races. How absurd. The idea of breeding with a human? Her lips curled in open disgust. Disgusting. The word cut through the air like a blade. Some alien nobles gasped in shock at her boldness. Others smirked, enjoying the humiliation. Daniel stood still. He could feel every eye on him. He could walk away, stay silent, or respond. He chose the last. "Careful, princess," he said quietly. But his voice carried across the chamber. "Life has a way of proving us wrong." The room froze. The council members exchanged glances. The insult was clear, yet the human's words carried weight. He had not shouted. He had not begged. He had simply spoken with a confidence that no one expected. For the first time, Princess Kaylyra did not laugh. Her golden eyes locked on his, searching, as if trying to read a secret written in his soul. A strange heat flickered in her chest, something she had never felt before. But then she broke the stare and rose from her seat, her long silver robe flowing like liquid moonlight. "This meeting is over," she declared. "The human speaks boldly, but words are nothing without power. Let the battlefield decide his worth." The council members murmured, some eager for what would come. The human had been challenged. The stage for something greater had been set. Daniel gave one last look at the princess before he turned to leave. His face showed no fear, only a quiet determination burned in his eyes. The princess watched him go, her heart unsettled. She had mocked him. She had insulted his very blood. Yet for the first time in her life, she was not certain she had won the exchange. Somewhere deep inside, a whisper stirred, dangerous, impossible, and forbidden. The challenge, the battlefield, was a wasteland of fire and steel. Black smoke twisted into the alien sky, and the ground shook as weapons clashed. The Zyran army, proud warriors with gleaming armor, marched with precision. Their banners rose high, their blades glowed with blue light. At the front of their formation rode Princess Kaylyra, her golden eyes blazing with pride. She led her people with the certainty of one born to rule. Around her, generals praised her courage, but not far away. Standing among a smaller human unit was Captain Daniel Reeve. His soldiers looked tired, their armor dented, their weapons simple compared to the advanced gear of the Zyrans. To the aliens, the humans were only here to watch, to observe real warriors at work. The princess smirked as she looked at them from her warbeast's saddle. "Stay behind." "Human," she called out across the lines. "This is no place for your fragile kind. Watch how true warriors fight." Her words carried the same sharp mockery as before in the council chamber. The Zyran soldiers laughed, their voices echoing like thunder. Daniel said nothing. He simply checked his rifle, tightened the straps on his armor, and gave a short nod to his men. Then the enemy came, a swarm of raiders, monstrous creatures with jagged claws and armored hides, burst over the hills. Their roars shook the ground. They were brutal, merciless, tearing through anything in their path. The Zyran warriors charged with confidence, their blades glowing, their shields raised. For a moment it seemed the battle was theirs, but then the swarm split into two. A second wave crashed against the Zyran flank with terrible force. The aliens faltered. Warriors fell. Banners toppled. Princess Kaylyra's eyes widened. She had not expected this many. Her troops, proud as they were, began to break formation. "Hold the line!" she shouted, her voice fierce. But even she could see it. The line was crumbling, and then she saw something else. The humans were moving. Daniel's voice cut through the chaos. "Squad Alpha, cover left." "Squad Bravo, on me!" The human soldiers moved with speed and discipline. Their weapons spat fire, their formation shifted smoothly, and they filled the gaps where the Zyrans were falling back. Daniel himself charged into the thick of the swarm. He was smaller than the monsters, weaker in raw strength but faster. His blade flashed, his rifle barked, and every shot, every strike landed with deadly precision. Kaylyra stared in disbelief. The human she had mocked, this fragile creature, was fighting like a storm made flesh. Her own guards fell back around her, their defenses failing. A raider lunged straight for her, its claws raised high. She raised her blade, but too slow, and then Daniel was there. He slammed into the beast, firing point blank into its chest. The creature roared and fell, its blood soaking the ground. Daniel turned, his face grim, his eyes steady. "You're welcome," he said quickly, before diving back into the fight. Kalira froze for a heartbeat, her pride wounded. She wanted to shout at him, to tell him she didn't need his help, but the truth burned in her chest. She had needed it. Around them, the tide began to shift. With the humans plugging the gaps and Daniel striking like fire, the swarm's advance slowed. The Zyrans, seeing the humans fight with such fury, found their courage again. They reformed their lines and pushed back. The battle raged for hours, but in the end the swarm retreated, leaving behind piles of their dead. Silence fell over the field. Smoke drifted. The wounded groaned. Kalira stood among the survivors, her armor scratched, her golden eyes locked on Daniel. He was bloodied, his uniform torn, but he stood tall, his men around him still alert, still ready. He met her gaze across the battlefield. There was no arrogance in his eyes, no mocking, only the calm certainty of a man who had done what needed to be done. For the first time, Kalira felt her chest tighten with something she had never known before. Not just respect, but doubt. Had she been wrong about humans? She turned her face away quickly, hiding the confusion. But inside her heart, a whisper grew louder. This human is not weak. And somewhere deep inside, that whisper frightened her more than any enemy.